my darlings, and welcome to Blood Bonding, the initial episode of our post-season interview show following ATL by Night. As you can see, we are in our new studio, which we are getting ready for Season 2. Because this is a post-season show, there is a possibility of spoilers, so if you don't want to get spoiled on the acts of Season 1, go ahead and go back and watch those videos before you come back to watch this video on demand. Tonight with me, I have Aaron... and I'm already messing that up. Tyler Sutherland, who plays Aaron Goodboy, and Zachary Vaudo, who plays Anton Krovopuskov. I actually got it right. Yeah. So I messed up your real name is the problem.
He's just Aaron.
That's fine.
I almost called you Aaron to your face.
This is true.
You know what? It's good, though, because it's been less than 24 hours since we played D&D, and I didn't call you by Gabaroth.
This is also true.
And that's the real win there. Is I'm not calling you by our other sessions' names. So how are you guys tonight?
Doing fine. Mm-hmm. As Ellie always says in the game, traffic in Atlanta is awful, but we're good anyway.
Oh, I know, right? It's the rain. Everyone in Atlanta loses their minds when it rains, and they just forget what lanes look like. They forget what brakes look like.
It's almost like we filmed a little bit of Mad Max here, right?
A little bit.
Maybe that's actually the real Mad Max. Maybe the real Mad Max was inside us all along.
The real Mad Max was in the heart of Atlanta.
Can I return it with a CVS receipt? I want to give it back.
Well, I mean, given that you could probably make a CVS receipt as long as $285.
It's a substitute.
That's possible. Yeah, definitely possible.
It would save time on all the construction.
So I guess we can go ahead and get started. And for both of you, we do have our first question, which I believe was from Peter in the chat.
Okay.
And he asked how long you guys have been playing Vampire the Masquerade. I know I've asked you about this already, and we dropped some of this trivia into the chat during the season. But go ahead and give that answer to our viewers who haven't been keeping up with the chat.
Yeah, sure.
So this is my first campaign with Vampire. Mm-hmm. My prior exposure to this was watching LA by Night, and then one homebrew game from a friend, and that's been about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've been playing World of Darkness games longer than I've been playing Vampire. I've done about 2 or 3 one-shot LARP sessions of Vampire. But I got into Mage the Ascension tabletop and Changeling LARP, which I did for 3 years, I think.
Yeah, and that was something, I think that we got that from the trivia, was that you had a Changeling character you were particularly fond
of.
And that was another part of this, was they wanted to know what other systems you'd work with. I know you had done a Dresden Files game, and you had done a Changeling game, but go ahead and...
Yeah, I did Changeling, Mage, I did Exalted, those are all White Wolf properties, and D&D. I haven't really branched out into a whole bunch of other ones. I recently kickstarted a game called Gene Funk, which I'm really looking forward to actually playing it out. And then some one-shots, one-shot indie stuff that Grant Howlett made, Crash Pandas.
Oh, yeah. Crash Pandas was fun. Yeah. That was were you?
I was not, no.
It was incredibly fun. And so other than the Dresden Files game that you talked about, what were some other systems you've played with?
Mostly within the Fate system. So much more story-based than typical D&D, but have done some standard homebrew and just regular classical D&D games before. All of it's been fun. It's fun to just find a different character to try to play, whether it's charisma-based, intelligence-based, or a blend of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've joked that D&D is just make-believe with spreadsheets. It's really make-believe for adults so that we can all agree on the rules, and really we can get that corporate culture into our gaming time.
Mathematical make-believe.
And then have you all had favorite characters? I think you also mentioned the Changeling character is one of your favorites historically.
Yeah. He was only. I also played him for 3 years, and when LARPing is different from tabletopping because we get into the characters a lot, both in our home D&D game and on ATL by Night. But actually being walk around, personally interact with everybody in full attire. It's basically just open air theater at that point. Yeah. So it's a lot easier to fall into it, and doing that regularly for 3 years really endeared the character to me. He was a puka, which is an animal spirit in the Changeling system named Kit. So he was a fox puka. The storyteller helped me build him together because that was my first LARP in the Changeling system. Kind of a Han Solo type character, but with a Western twist to it. I had a lot of fun just perpetually out-talking and outwitting the other barons in the game, and also being extremely difficult to catch because dodge was my highest trait.
Oh, yeah, that would make you... It makes you very, what's the word I always use? Very slippery.
Slippery.
And then, was your Dresden Files character your favorite one, or
Yes.
do you have a different one?
No. The only other long-standing campaign I played through college was a homebrew D&D mixed with Fate, but it was much centered around the fairy tale anime-centric. So everyone was a mage or a wizard of some sort, but with their own special twists and quirks. So my guy was very similar to the armor-changing mage.
Okay.
And so they would have a specific set of armor, hopefully, to combat the fire-breathing dragon or the troublesome gnomes or something like that. But no, I think my dressing character was my favorite.
I'm imagining this like really buff armored guy just kicking garden gnomes. I know that's not what we're talking about, but
Right.
that's definitely what I'm visualizing, especially when I'm imagining like this really buff armor dude with like a long pink ponytail and like these bright anime eyes. 'Cause you did
Whatever,
mention his anime
right?
face.
Whatever would get them coin. That's they did plenty of stuff.
Oddvarious in Ellie's D&D campaign has also been like a lot of fun to play and just get in the head of a self-loathing tiefling who just takes a monk path.
with substance issue problems. And I know that I don't think any of the characters in our vampire campaign have substance abuse problems yet.
Not that
At
have come
least
to
not
light.
that we know of. Yeah. And then, so this one's more of a funny question.
Okay.
There was someone in the Discord who asked, if Philip and Anton went on a date, where would they go? Contestant number 1.
Honestly, Anton is you may not have guessed, kind of self-centered person. So he'd probably take him somewhere that he was familiar and comfortable with so that he could actually show off a bit. So something museum-based or art, or, like it could be an art museum, doesn't have to be a history museum, but something where he could actually like know what to talk about as opposed to being thrown into the awkwardness of a first date.
So what would happen if Philip tried to like make a TikTok out of that?
I mean, Anton is familiar with TikTok. He would just hope to God that Philip actually knows what the hell he's doing.
There might be some masquerade breaches in there, maybe.
We don't know.
I don't, based on my understanding, I don't think it's a masquerade breach to have a TikTok. If
Just to
we-
be doing vampiric things on it,
for-
right?
Yeah, for
like-
folks that have been watching Ellie's Coteries of New York playthrough, there is definitely a live video stream within that game that somehow doesn't violate the masquerade. Or at least not that I've seen yet.
They get into it in a bit more detail. It's like a very, very specific system. But yeah, unless his name is literally like, Philip the Vampire.
That'd be a great username, though.
I mean, even then, it's one of those hiding in plain sight
Right.
things.
Right.
Right? Like, at a certain point, is it really breaking the masquerade if nobody believes you?
And you know what? On
Probably
that,
yes.
because Anton's a history professor, right?
Yes.
So what does Anton teach specifically in the history realm?
Yeah, so graduate professor at Emory University, because there's a course atlas that he moves through. His focus was on sort of like subversive cultures in history, so things like secret societies, blood feuds, things like that. So that's where a lot of
Things
his
like the Camarilla?
well, that's funny enough. That's actually what led him to the Camarilla.
Interesting.
Yeah, we might get into that at some point in the season, we might not. But yeah, because of his focus in his study, he eventually was like tested to see if he could and did find his way to Kindred history.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
the Tremere liked to test, so he passed.
Yeah, they're somewhere between scientists and magicians.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
As Arthur
From
C.
what I
Clarke
can
said,
tell.
indistinguishable.
Yeah, definitely. So, Aaron,
Oh, boy.
one of the questions that I actually had, and I didn't see anyone in the chat mention this, it does seem like Aaron's the youngest member of the coterie. How does he feel being around all these much older kindred who seem to have more experience and, he's been around a kindred who diablerized another kindred. Like, he seems very young, and how's he handling that?
I would say cautiously. Throughout the season, he's been asking questions somewhat blankly and sometimes a little bit more codedly of how does this work? Or what is the way to go about this in X, Y, and Z? So many questions he wants to ask Cirrus, but will not. He likes his
don't know.
fingers attached.
Maybe you should ask them here, and we can ask Cirrus when he's on the show.
No, we've said it twice. We said it twice. That's enough. That's enough.
Oh, is it like Beetlejuice?
No.
We said-
Yes, it is. It is. I'm glad you played off that. That was fun. That was fun. But no, in short, he's very, I guess, young in terms of kindred years. And so figuring out what questions to ask up front, and then what questions, like at this point, I've been here so long, I should know the answer. But some things you can't ask openly, and that's a little scary to him sometimes.
Is it sort of like, I know how to do this, but how would you do it?
A little bit, yeah. So he comes from the CSI and the cop background, so it's very procedural. It's very looking at it by the book, trained to look at it with a different eye. And so coming at it from, he doesn't have higher humanity than any of the others, at least stats-wise, but at least character-wise, what makes sense doesn't always make sense.
And now, were you, because being the youngest, you may not have had as much of an opportunity, easy for me to say, to move. Were you both embraced in Atlanta, or where were you embraced?
Yeah, I was embraced at Emory University. Like I said, part of the study path had my undergraduate was kept at Emory for my doctorate, which many people who may have gone on the graduate path might note is rather rare, specifically because there was curiosity as to where he could steer his studies based on his focuses. He steered his studies. He completed the doctorate program. He was then brought in as like a associate, like lower level professor at Emory, which is unheard of to do your undergraduate, graduate, and and your actual profession all in the same university.
That's true.
Yeah, but
it's usually frowned upon.
Right, but Anton's not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. And by the time he'd gotten into discovering kindred history and kindred lore, that was when it was revealed that yes, we kept you here. We made sure to keep you here to see how you could do, and you did well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so, does that mean you know your sire? Or
Yeah, I've named him a few times in the series actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I may have missed that. I'll have to go back.
I haven't named him as my sire, but I have named him, and it's not really a big secret or anything. It's Dr. Liam Carter. He's the department head of the history department at Emory.
Okay, so now you have a name to look out for when you go back and rewatch those episodes.
So Aaron was turned outside of DC.
Okay.
And so he spent most of his pre-vampire life in that area, got turned outside of DC, and then spent a little bit of time around that area before moving down to Atlanta. Has been there pretty much ever since.
So that would have been 20 years ago. Atlanta's changed a lot in that time, and so has DC. How much of a shock was that to his system?
A lot, especially since most of those first few months and years outside of after being turned, he spent it as a gangrel in the woods. And so to be removed from DC as it was, to go back to DC as it was later, and then to go to this whole new shock that is Atlanta, which is vibrant in everything that you could possibly not think of, and yet it is.
Yeah, and gangrels are a more woodsy, I hate to say subspecies of kindred, but sort of clan of kindred.
Yes, they spend a lot of time outdoors, separated. I like the Lake Lanier place as a setting for the gangrel. Ellie did a great job of that because it's so removed from the city.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I don't know if anyone watching has ever been out to Lake Lanier, but it's gorgeous. And I think you can, it's been a while since I've been, but I think you can rent boats and actually go out. And there's like houses on the shore of Lake Lanier all over the place, which I'm guessing is one of the houses where...
One of like the rundown houses or like removed far enough on like the inlet of the lake.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think I had another question for you that was... that was the one. So Abby is also in our D&D campaign and plays another cleric. Now, did you and Abby work together on the character of Sunny, or was that something that she came up with separate of you and then sort of sprung on, like, I hate to say sprung on you, but sprung on you at the table?
No, I'm very excited and happy for how Abby portrayed Sunny, but also how that character came into being. The only threads I gave Ellie was essentially Aaron has a girlfriend or had a girlfriend before. He got turned into a gangrel after, and that was it. I didn't want to know what happened, why things happened. I wanted to leave that all as her, I guess, puppet master.
Yeah.
Going back to the flashbacks from the
Don't say puppets.
puppeteer.
Give her enough threads to work with.
And then about 2 weeks before about a week before we started filming the season finale, I found out, along with everyone else, who was going to be Sunny. And I sent her a message right away saying, "You're going to do a great job." And that was it. I didn't want to know any spoilers. I didn't want to know anything behind the scenes because I like being surprised just as much as the fans do.
Oh, it was a great moment. And the fans loved it. The fans, because we have some fans of Werewolf in the chat. And so they were going wild about the fact that there was a werewolf, that a guru, like a loop guru, I guess is where they derived that. That a guru was part of the setting. Right. And I do have questions for later in the season to find out if there are going to be more Guru coming up, but I don't know if you guys...
I would like to know as well.
I know, right?
I mean, we did just agree to strike a deal with a whole Garu tribe, so they're in Ellie's back pocket to pull back out whenever she wants to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then, so here's an interesting question, because, like I said, I've played with both of you in a different campaign, and... Oddvarius and Anton are very different from each other. They definitely have a few similar traits, but I'd say that Aaron and Gabriel are pretty close. So how much of yourself have you put into these characters?
I don't try to put myself into the characters. I know that a lot of it is I know that there's quite a bit that's going to just come through because I am me, and I try to leave enough buffer zone to where I can work comfortably. But I built Aaron, not you're Aaron. I built Anton entirely separate of me. On Ellie's advice, I built who he was as a human, his thoughts, desires, his life direction, his connections, which then transitioned into him as a kindred. And he is much more... he's focused on subjects that I like but are not primary interests of mine. Following a career path that I am not taking. I'm interested in other paths from him. He's a lot of things that I enjoy, but I try to leave some flexibility to where I could just play off of a scene, and I can play off a scene more as myself than another character.
Yeah, and that's one thing is Oddvarius isn't as sociable as Anton is. So I think there's a little bit more of that friendliness that comes through Anton most of the time.
Yeah, I just try to crank that up to 11 sometimes when I can, because Anton is very happy to make friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're different mediums too. Our table game is much different, at least audience-wise and presenting-wise. Than...
there's zero audience. Yes. It's just us.
Sometimes we're trying to figure out what's happening across the table, and that's it. Whereas you have to put on a different face for, say, Anton, the whole shebang.
I'll be honest, I forget that the camera's going because I just try to fall into the game. I know that you're out there. I know that you're watching me. All the time, but I try to ignore that. I actually just focus on what Ellie is saying, what people around me are saying. I try to stay in Anton's thoughts, and I try to not act for the camera. If that makes sense. It's very easy to fall into acting for the camera, so I'm trying. Right. I try to be aware of it, so I don't do a full 90-degree turn away from the camera. But
absolutely.
But that's mostly just my body positioning. Apart from that, I'm just playing the game.
Well, and that's one thing I know you guys are both aware, because I'm much more gestural in real life, and so I have to make sure to sit and kind of focus on the mic.
Yeah.
But I was also asking about.
Yeah. So I am not nearly as disheveled and filthy as
That's
Aaron
true.
is.
That's true.
Oof. I couldn't imagine. I was getting cringes just describing what his car was like. Oh. But I knew it would play out well, and everyone else played off along with it.
But we all know someone with that car.
Right.
All of us.
All of it. Ooh.
And you can always name them.
But we won't.
We won't.
Right, Jeff? Yeah. As far as other parts of Aaron, I try to... I like being a little bit more, I guess, assertive with Aaron. Mm-hmm. He assesses the situation, and then he starts asking questions.
Yeah.
It's not always grilling them Where's Harvey Dent style, but it's figuring out what's the lead... how far can I take this? And then as soon as it dries up, okay, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, I've noticed that he's very procedural. He has like a set of steps that he follows whenever he's presented with a new scenario.
Right.
Like the bag of blood. What was her name? Amanda something?
Amanda Gilbert.
Yes.
Amanda Gilbert. And that thread, I guess we'll have to wait to see more to follow up. Do you guys have any theories for what might happen in season 2? I kind of wanted to see what you guys thought might happen.
Well, the Garu said that they were going to get the Primogen back. I assume we're going to get the Primogen back. We'll have to see what happens with Talbot. If we are to uphold our end of the deal, then either we're going to have to go after a prince, or somebody's going to have to take him down or out.
Which is a big ask.
Yeah, it's a lot. But the Garu will probably come back. I imagine it'll be a power shift, one way or the other. Or the whole Atlanta will shake up with, us versus them, as it were.
Yeah, no, because that would leave a huge power vacuum if there's not already a prince designated to take over the throne.
I mean, there's
Or the position.
I mean, there's levels like in the Camarilla. There's like a prince and a seneschal and etc. But it's not exactly like president, vice president. And there's the Primogen Council. But again, it depends on what happens and if it happens. Because Talbot's old and powerful, as we were told. So it's not as easy as it would be just deposing another politician, which is an understatement in its own right, but it's even harder in this instance.
So what you're saying is that you need some incriminating photos of him having an affair, cheating on his spouse?
He'd probably admit to it anyway, but
How we go about it is going to be nasty, whether we follow through or at this point back out. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's put you guys in a really tough position that you're going to have to follow through on. Should be...
Aaron's got some personal ties to just blindly going towards it, and then maybe if he does this, he'll get answers. That is going to conflict with the group, and so we'll see how things play out.
And I imagine you'll probably be exploring more of like this connection that we've resurfaced.
Yeah, and definitely with Sunny having her own reasons for wanting the prince out of power, which, do you think she's telling the truth? Do you know if she's telling the truth?
Every time I listen...
I know that Aaron said that he believed her, but do you, Tyler, believe her?
This is a tough question. It's a tough question. I'm getting a call from my lawyer right now, and I've been told not to answer that question.
Wait, I thought I was your lawyer.
This is true. You're my not lawyer.
Wait, hold on.
Every time Aaron trusts Sunny, he gets hurt. He almost died last time.
Yeah.
He did die one time, and so going through this next time, it's gonna be dicey to figure out where things go. At some point, he might try to cut it off, but then all the answers fall away. So
I feel like I want to expand on that part. That you died one time, or if you want to let it come up in game is the other question.
No, I think I can
You touched on it briefly.
put a little bit, yeah. So when Aaron, as far as like backstory wise, was still human, he was dating Sunny, and even on the show, the first time he heard Sunny's name was when she said it, and so he's for a while still thinking that it's Jessica.
Yeah.
And so he went after, as far as like to try to get turned. It didn't go well, and so that night he was turned into the Gangrel. And then a few years later, in the woods, surfacing, then he found his way back to DC, and then eventually to Atlanta.
So he knew that she was Garu, or he knew that she was just turned?
He knew that she was Garu.
Okay.
And so he got kind of the worst of both worlds, and that ending up as a undead and also a vampire.
Yeah, definitely. That's a little bit of buyer's regret on that one.
But it's been played out fun. It lets me explore kind of the less intricate, less political things, and more of the, not cutthroat, but just bestial vampire aspects.
Yeah, because that was something when Alpha showed up, and he called you Officer Good Boy, and I'm sure we'll get your last name at some point.
Eventually, maybe.
But I loved that Officer Good Boy moment, and that relationship with Alpha seemed tense. It seems like there's some history there.
Yes, without too much spoiler. Well, he shared it on the show as soon as he got on that he beat Denise to become essentially the top Gangrel in the clan. But when you do that, you're supposed to take over. So
And then he just walked away.
He just walked away. So Aaron had some kind of responsibility issues there. Alpha also reminds him a lot of his sire. And so there's not, I guess, there's some conflicts there in that he sees a lot of his sire in Alpha.
Oh, that's right.
And they didn't end up on the best of terms.
I was going to say, we didn't ask you about your relationship with your sire, but
It's
now that
not
you're
good.
on it, let's go.
It's
Let's
not
hear
good.
it.
It's it's terrible. No, his sire is so anti-werewolf that it is really going to be nasty when or if Sunny brings that up.
So do you think that, does Aaron think that his sire actually turned him to prevent him from becoming a werewolf?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay.
We're getting good juicy stuff, but not for right now.
Hold on, let me just,
Right.
no comment.
Like $5 under the table? Sure.
I do work for a higher retainer. I need at least 10. So from the Discord, there was actually someone who wanted to know how long Anton had been a professor. It's a long time. We know that much.
Let's see. He has been a professor since he completed his graduate program in 1971. So, roughly since then.
So he got tenure in like 1980 because that's how it
Pretty
always
much.
works.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Man, he was on the fast track.
Yep. Embraced in 1975, tenure in 1980.
Yeah, no, that is definitely the fast track.
Yeah.
For a professor. So that must have been the Camarillas doing at that
When
point.
your sire is also the department head for the department that you were teaching in, it's
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Who's also-
I didn't think about that.
who's also fudging the registrar so that you don't show up as like 80 years old in the system.
You just aged so well. It's you just tell people like, oh, it's I just drink a lot of water.
Yeah, dominate's a hell of a drug.
That's right. You did mention that earlier off camera. So does Anton use dominate regularly, or is it only when he needs?
Anton doesn't. Anton doesn't.
That's a complicated answer.
That is not the discipline that Anton puts most of his focus into, but it is one of the core Tremere disciplines, which means that other Tremere specialize in that as well.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and, you know, the older you get, the stronger you get, the more abilities you get.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And then also, you know what? I'm going to actually make this for both of you, but someone in the chat wanted to know what Anton wanted to know, and I don't know if it was for Anton or for you, Zach.
Okay.
What your favorite magic system is outside of vampire.
Oh, yeah.
And whether it's like the Magicians or Harry Potter or Dresden Files, which one?
Funny enough, I think my answer actually works for both Zach and Anton.
Okay.
So,
Am I talking with Anton or with Zach right now?
and it'll become
Like Anton
it'll
came
become
out.
a bit more apparent, and I can
Sure.
walk it through as we get there. For favorite magic system, if we're talking about like other games, as I mentioned earlier, I started in World of Darkness White Wolf games with Mage the Ascension. So I love that system of magic. I actually just got a tattoo of the different spheres.
Yeah, 'cause-
Magic works in terms of spheres of reality. They occupy different things
Oh,
like
interesting.
like prime, life, force, time, mind, correspondence, which is like positioning. And you sort of like occupy those spheres, and you can do things within those spheres, and you create paradigms out of those spheres. So I love that concept of being able to manipulate elements of reality. And since we're in World of Darkness, I imagine mages also will exist if we're doing everything else. So Anton would be fascinated by that as well. You can go ahead and just consider these canon if you want to. It's fine. But then not in a game, like in a book setting, there is a Russian urban fantasy series that is my favorite.
Oh, interesting.
It's by an author named Sergei Lukyanenko.
Can you spell that for us? Because I don't think people are going to be able to get that off just...
Lukyank. Sorry, I've
share it in the Discord
lost
later.
track
You know
of it. We'll figure it out later.
We'll have to go back on the
It's
VOD.
easier if I just tell you the book title. It's Night Watch. Night Watch is the name of the book.
That's way easier to pronounce.
There was a movie that came out like in the 2010s ish, based on it. There are 6 books in that series, and the way that magic works is in terms of layers of reality. It's either translated as the twilight or the gloom, depending on what version you use, but basically there are different layers of reality that have different energy levels.
It's sort of a similar mechanic to what you're explaining in Mage.
Sort of, but not really.
Not identical.
But it's all the same, and it's just the same. It's the layer of reality that you're on, but deeper, and things get more ghostly. Things operate differently, and the mages or magicians in. Or the others, as they're called, because others, shapeshifters, etc., they all pull from these levels of the twilight to fuel themselves.
As a technology person, my brain goes, "Oh, so it's a network layer."
Yeah, pretty much. But
only the tech people in the audience will get that one. That's a way obscure reference.
It's a fascinating book series. There were like 4 books, and then they added 2 more books on. There are 2 movies. They're sort of based on the books. It's
okay.
Sweet.
I'll have to check that out, because actually that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy the Magician Show on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
God, right?
It's I like the.
I didn't like the book all that much, but I love the show.
I will admit I have not read the book.
I read the first book. I loved the world.
Gotcha.
And I really loved how they translated that to the show.
Yes.
I did not like Quentin as a narrator.
I very much like the characters that they portray on the show. I like
love
the
the
magic
art.
system. It's beautiful. The musical episodes are always fun.
Yes.
I can't sing to save my life, but I
neither
appreciate
can Margot.
it. Right.
Neither
right.
can Margot. I
Aw.
love that they let her sing badly every time, and I'm like, honestly, that makes me love you more.
It's
I
very
think-
real.
The thing I love most about that system of magic is that magic's math-based. It's complicated, and if you're trying to make fire or bend time, it should be. And so
Yeah.
to figure out how to bend reality to your will, you can really easily mess up if, like, you honestly forget to divide by 2 in your math equations and you end up as a bear or something like that. It's a fun system.
Wasn't that a story arc in season 1?
A milding episodes at this point, but yeah, it's a fun system. It's a fun show, and the characters are as cutthroat to each other as they are. It's fun.
And also as loving to each other, because
This is true.
there's definitely an affection between the characters, and I think that with the coterie that's also developed to a certain extent, that y'all kind of have an affection for each other, except for Cyrus. What's
He gave
everyone...
me a gun. Of course, I love him. And now it's
If
an
only-
exploding bullets gun. I love this.
It's like what's that Christmas movie? He gave you that Red Ryder BB gun.
Right.
Oh, Christmas Story.
I love
Christmas
it.
Story.
We talked very briefly as far as like character creation before the show, and I've liked how it's developed differently from what we expected. Since this is a spoiler thing, we were expecting a huge blowout when it came to the reveal that Anton had been working towards a cure, or not cure, like this magical find of, I know how to find your long lost girlfriend. I've been holding it back from you. We were expecting and building it up towards this huge break and explosion and violence and maybe split from a little bit from the coterie, and it turned into more of a just conversation.
Yeah.
And that's because Catherine happened.
I was going to say, and then on the flip side, there was something that was meant to be a conversation that turned
Right.
into full-blown heart-eating, definitely spoilers here, heart-eating diablerie.
Yep.
And that, I will say, when I was watching that episode, I'm not even sure Ellie expected that.
No.
And I know Dustin himself wasn't expecting that, because I saw his face when the dice fell, and you could just see his eyes get wide briefly before he got right back into character. And it was just, that was a great moment, though. It was so well played.
Yep.
But also, it definitely affected your relationships with him.
We're
And-
still recovering from all of the fallout and
Yeah.
recovery from not just one-to-one characters, but the characters as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, like the fallout from the Catherine situation, yeah, it changed a lot of stuff. It changed our our group dynamic a lot. It's set a sort of invisible cap, I think, on how far we should go. That may come up again later on, depending, but I think it sort of set a general cap. But it also led to, the various discussions with our Primogen, which led to something that I planned on sitting on for a long time, which is how Anton thinks people think of him. Like in the sense of, he's the magic guy, he's the book guy. You come to him for stuff,
Yeah.
and then thanks bye. That's why he tries. That's why he tries to be friendly with people all the times, because he wants to actually do something beyond that. I was planning on sitting on that for a long time, so there would be like a while of wondering why Anton is such a dick. But it came out in like episode 6 when I wound up in a knockdown throw with my Primogen over it, which they all heard.
Yeah.
So especially Aaron. So Aaron, who had been, and I noticed this as we were going through the season, asking question about what Anton can do. Can you do this? Yep. Do you have the ability to do this? I could tell that you were building towards asking, you have the ability to do all this. Why haven't you done it yet? But you heard me
Put the brakes.
Say how I felt, and I think that changed how you approached me about it.
It was fun. I think the drama behind it was worthwhile. It was it hurt. It hurt, but it changed the course of the coterie, and it wasn't just we have to go to do X, Y, and Z along the plot quests. It was how do we react to something that we didn't even expect could happen.
Right.
And when we saw Tilly and how that was impact our decisions impacted her,
And
it was
impacted you
brutal.
emotionally. I know both of you had a very strong emotional reaction to that.
Yeah, no, I mean that was Anton is a war survivor, so he's seen a lot of shit go down, and it's been about 10 years since that war ended, but it was still very cut and dry for him. Of these are the bad guys, these are everybody else. The bad guys are bad, and it didn't really occur to him, that like the impact and the domino effect that can happen. It's sort of a like instead of like in war, if a soldier kills that soldier, well, that soldier is somebody's brother.
Right.
Like whatever side you're on, they still have a ripple effect that happens from there, and it didn't occur to him because when back in the early 2000s when this was all going down, it was just utter chaos.
Right, and I know Anton's made a couple of references to his dealings in the final days. Are you looking to expand on that more in the story, or do you want to expand on some of it here?
I mean, I imagine it'll come up at some point.
Okay.
One of the last like canonic things for Atlanta is like in 1999, the Sabbat just sacked Elysium, which was the High Museum, and overthrew the prince, upset the Camarilla, and took over. And they took over for almost 10 years. Constantly fighting some with like few Camarilla were coordinated together, mostly fighting with like another vampire clan that was like running crime syndicates in Atlanta trying to vie for power, all until the Operation First Light happened and the Sacred Inquisition swept through and just carpet bombed Sabbat strongholds all over the place. So yeah, Anton was doing a lot of recovery and survival during that time.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing more details on that revealed at the table.
I will say there is quite a bit of history from the final nights of Atlanta in the Athenaeum around the coterie all the time. I vaguely mentioned it.
So Dolly Parton was really involved in the final nights.
Dolly Parton helped him get through it.
Are you suggesting Dolly Parton is Sabbat or Camarilla?
No,
Don't you dare. Leave her out of this.
For game mechanic purposes, Dolly Parton is not a kindred.
So does that make her a mage? Or a changeling?
Can't say. For game mechanic purposes, Dolly Parton is a human.
And then, someone did ask this. It's actually important.
Okay.
Could we get full canonic spellings of your names? I know Aaron Goodboy is easy to spell.
Very easy to spell.
But if you could go ahead and spell that for the viewer.
I'm not going to attempt to spell live on air. I will mess it up. But it's in the Discord. How it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll wind up messing it up as well. But yeah, we can put it in the Discord. We can put it maybe in the chat if there's a moderator that wants to just type it out or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. But yeah, the pronunciation is Krovopuskov, like I've been saying. once you see it written out, maybe you look it up and see a fun bit of trivia that I threw in about it. But
And then-
you'll get your last name whenever you decide to give it.
And then speaking of trivia, how did y'all come up with your names? Was there a specific inspiration or some sort of drive behind those specific names?
For Aaron's name, Aaron's sire was very, very headstrong, as you kind of saw from Alpha. They're not related, but his sire is very rooted in tradition. And so when he turned Aaron, he gave him the name of Aaron as he's his firstborn, his first son. And so that's kind of the biblical phrase of where that came from.
Wow, yeah, that's some thought behind that. Okay. Okay.
Other than that, his last name has a bit of a, because he's so anti-werewolf, it's more of a safety reason of why he hasn't been spreading it around all over the place.
So werewolves don't attack good boys?
This is true. This is true. Now we know. Now we know.
Mine's a lot less, I guess, inspired, I'd say. And like Anton and Krovopuskov are both very common Russian names. Anton does happen to be the name of the protagonist of the aforementioned Nightwatch series.
Oh, okay.
But it's also an extraordinarily common name.
Yeah.
And Krovopuskov, like I said, it was like one of the, I think it's like the fourth most common Russian surname.
Okay.
Or something like that. But yeah, like once you get it spelled out, you guys look it up. I picked it for a reason. It's not like a major plot reason. It's more of like an inside joke, I guess.
Daughter of Krovopus, I think is usually how it pronounced.
No, this one.
How it
No,
translates?
this one is not a.
Oh, it's not an ovat?
Yeah, it's not an ovat. And actually,
It's literally like the only Russian I know is that there's ovats and oviches, and that's it.
Somebody actually. I won't name drop or username drop in case they don't want me to. But somebody actually asked me off to the side if there was a reason that Anton didn't have a name in the similar naming convention, which basically translates to like son of wherever your father is. And I don't think that we'll ever wind up getting into this because it's such a non-issue for Anton. But his parents died really young in St. Petersburg. He was raised by like extended family, uncles and stuff. Really kind of distant. Didn't really give a shit about it. That's why he was so keen on just, let me take this school opportunity in America. Like 10,000 Russians came into America in the 60s for school. Gotcha. And he was one of them.
The pogroms, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so he was one of them, and that's why he doesn't have a. I always forget the name, like what the actual word is, but that's why he doesn't have a name that means like son of blank. It's because. He kind of knows who his dad is.
I know what they're a patronymic. I'm
Patronymic.
probably making that up.
No,
yeah,
patronymic
is one that's derived from your father. So a patronymic would be one that is not derived from your father.
I
guess
he is a patronymic.
I'm making that up. Don't use that in your papers.
If you do, Anton will give you a point. But yeah,
just make sure to cite our show in your like APA format.
Sure, that will go well.
But yeah, he doesn't really know his parents, so he's not going to go with a patronymic. It's sort of a non-issue to him. Russia and Russian culture as a whole is sort of a non-issue to him at this point. It's like kindred first, America second, or kindred first, like academic America second, and then it just sort of goes down from there.
When you indicated it's been almost 60 years since he left Russia, so that kind of makes sense, even from a human perspective, that you may not be as concerned.
Yeah, at this point he's long gone.
When you're immortal and undead, I'm sure it's less of an issue.
Right. He was in America during the 60s and the 70s. He was a kindred in the 80s and 90s. American culture is great.
Dolly Parton's here.
And
that's a big bonus for him.
How are you gonna be in your prime in the American South in the 70s and not be exposed to Dolly Parton en masse?
Has he gone to Dollywood?
At night.
An important question.
Right.
At night, it is not that far of a drive.
It's really not.
Yeah, to get to Dollywood.
Is like 4 hours.
But yeah, of course he's been. He can't really like tour around during the daytime tours or anything, but he's definitely been.
And I will say, the last time I went to Dollywood, I was 12. It is highly underrated. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Anton willing to make the drive all the way. Zach, not been to Dollywood.
Oh.
Well, obviously, we just need to make like a group camping trip in Appalachia. I'm sure that is not the plot of a horror movie.
Ellie has told me that I have to go now. That I built this in, I have to go.
You kind of do. Like, you've been to Disney so many times. This is Anton's Disney.
This is what happens when you sign the waiver. They just take you anywhere.
Anywhere you want.
And then this was an important question. You actually asked this in the Discord. Is how have you adjusted your character from the beginning of the show? How you thought you would play them? Where did my question go? And have they taken a different direction than you originally thought they would play?
You answer your own question first.
I wasn't intending to.
I want to know you too.
Sure.
It's a great question, though. Like, I'm going to spring that on you specifically because you asked it. So I hope you have an answer.
I want to say that Aaron was originally going to be a little bit more. He's a kindred. He's a vampire, so he's more, I guess, brutal. Gangrel itself is the not most, but one of the more brutal clans, and more of Tyler came out that it's not always that. One of our fans made this amazing quiz, and when I took the quiz, of course I got Aaron, but
I got Anton.
My favorite part of it at the end was that softness isn't weakness, and that was amazing. And so as we started playing throughout the characters, it was very fun to see someone who didn't have to be typecast as, of course there's plenty of dog jokes here and there.
Yeah.
But it didn't have to be constricted to this just one form.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're the resident soft boy because of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, for lack of just to meme a little.
Exactly. Typecast. I typecast myself.
I was gonna say you've also got in our D&D campaign, Gabaroth's very sensitive and compassionate, and I've watched a few times, and our viewers wouldn't have noticed it. But there were a couple of times where I saw Gabaroth just leap out of Aaron, and you were like, nope, get back down there.
I think it was especially when Thomasina handed over $400 out
Yeah.
of nowhere.
That's what it was.
We saw Gabaroth go into your
And
face.
the very miserly, money-centric Gabaroth was like, ooh, that's a... And then I had to put on Aaron's face half a second later to
I could
say,
resurrect half the coterie with it.
We D&D on Monday, and then we do ATL by night on Tuesday. There's some wires crossing.
And honestly, it's so impressive that you both are able to change characters so quickly. Because it's literally, we end D&D at usually around 10 or 11.
Something like that.
On a good night, once we went past midnight. And it's less than 24 hours later, and you're playing different characters in an equally improv-based game, and an equally story-driven game.
Well, we've also been acting for a while, too. Like, I don't know if you... Like, I met you in, 2011 on the project, but the film project, but you may have been acting before then, or was that your first time?
No, that was pretty much my first stuff.
Yeah.
There was itty-bitty things here and there, but I was also in college for math.
Gotcha.
And so that was to help pad my pizza addiction.
Right. I did a little bit of acting prior to that, but again, it was school, so not a whole lot of stuff.
Math for money.
Yeah.
That is kind of what I do, doing software stuff. But here's an interesting question we got. I think this one was from Twitter, actually.
Yeah.
It was. I know we have a couple from Twitter and a couple from Discord.
Yeah.
If you two were in a buddy cop movie, who would be Riggs and who would be Murtaugh?
All right, so
I actually don't know which cop series this is from.
This is from Rush Hour.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, not Rush Hour. Not Rush Hour. I said wrong. Lethal Weapon, but I've seen Rush Hour, but I'm thinking Lethal Weapon. Some Lethal Weapon.
Mashup.
Yeah, it's the other black cop, not black cop movie. It's Lethal Weapon. Murtaugh is Danny Glover. Riggs is Mel Gibson. You would think that Anton might be Murtaugh because he's older, but I'm going to go with Aaron as Murtaugh because despite him being younger, he is already too old for this shit.
I've seen so much.
Whereas Riggs Anton is totally fine, going in half-cocked with his own plan of how things are going to go.
Half-cocked, half-robed. It's just, no, stop.
At least put some pants on.
Half-robe, no robe, whatever.
They don't care. That's their distraction.
I mean, I know someone who I lived with, who I was roommates with, who made a point of saying, well, if you walk out naked with a baseball bat, they're going to be scared of you. And it's you know what? There is some logic to that.
Or impressed. Either way.
Or both. Yeah. Scared and impressed at the same
but
time.
I'll agree with your assessment. It's spot on. I like it.
Yeah, and if you walk out naked, covered in blood with a baseball bat, I think they'll just be really worried for their own safety.
Must be Tuesday.
Yeah.
Must be Tuesday. And then I know we have a couple of other questions.
Okay. Hi out there in TV land.
Oh, this one was interesting. I think we got this one today in the Discord. Where do either you or your characters see Aaron and Anton being in 5 years? We're going to get into job interview territory, so I need you to tell me what your ambitions are.
Hopefully not fully dead. Before this coterie, Aaron was reserved. He wanted to lay low, but still seek out answers about Jessica/Sunny. And so he's been put in more immortal danger in the last 3 or so weeks with this coterie than he has in like the last 20 or so years he's been a Gangrel. So hopefully not fully dead. As far as what position, what power, he doesn't have aspirations for top Gangrel. He'll let Alpha play that game. He wants to make sure that the people he cares about are taken care of. And if he can do that, great. If he knows someone else who can do that better, then he'd much rather them take care of it.
That's good. That's very simple though. Do you have any further ambitions? Like even in the police force, because
Sure.
he's a forensic.
That's true. He has his contacts.
Forensic pathologist? Forensic
Yes.
scientist? I'm
so
not sure which one.
He essentially cleans up the crime scenes.
Okay.
He does have the background as far as technical skills for assessing and hopefully solving some of the cases. He does a little bit of that in the background, but it's more about just he can literally stomach it, and so he goes through and he helps clean. And
Now,
it's,
when you say stomach it, he
Yes.
eats the crime scenes,
No.
or he?
that stuff has to be bagged and tagged.
Okay.
I will say that he probably made that mistake once or twice, and that's why he's not in DC anymore.
Was that what his bestial failure was? Like for Cyrus, his bestial failure was pulling out a heart. For you, it was eating
Right.
some bloody carpet.
I hope not, because he's put that beast as far down as he can, and I'm hoping it doesn't come out. Because when it does, that's been repressed plenty long enough.
I'll be honest. I've been waiting for Aaron to let the beast out because I'm so used to you playing nice characters,
Right.
like kind
Right.
and nice.
I think
characters.
Ellie's been waiting for it too.
Right, I've been
We've
wanting
been-
to do it, but the few times I've rolled have
You've been so
fortunately
prepared.
been very nice rolls.
Yeah.
Even when I can't take any points in drive and don't know how to drive around Atlanta. But no bestial failure, so we're fine.
Hey.
We're fine.
You've been so prepared is the problem. Like what you need to do is someone needs to just steal all your blood packets, Ellie.
We actually talked quite a bit, not quite a bit, but a good bit about that before we started filming of she dropped hints of and make sure you know what to do X, Y, and Z. Not as far as like prepping for spoilers, but you are a bagger now. You're not a night agent or a sleeper, whatever it is. So you have to know and think through how do you keep your stash on you? How do you keep it cold? If you let it get not, I guess, to room temperature,
Yeah,
you're
I
not going to get any
expect-
sustenance from
I
it.
expect
Right.
curdled blood is not very tasty
Right.
if you're a vampire.
Nope. And the gushers aren't
Yeah.
helping either. So.
Yeah.
It's just blood pudding
Yeah.
all of a sudden. I'm sorry, are you okay?
I'll be fine.
Okay. And then Anton, still teaching or?
Yeah. I mean, still teaching, still researching, still doing preservation. Anton is Anton very much just wants to live, I guess, for lack of a better term. Like he's been doing it. That's what he did for like the couple decades up until the Final Nights, and that's what he's been trying to do for the decades since the Final Nights. He's enjoying the fact that Kindred life gives him the ability to expand his quest for knowledge. He likes learning. He likes discovering. He likes finding stuff and making sense of it. And he likes, just interpersonal interactions. I didn't get to it earlier, but one of the ways that I planned on playing him more was, and this is gonna sound weird, but bear with me, is more sociable, more personable. And I say that in the sense of like he has that human life of a professor, which means he has like his graduate class and also his favorite students that like he interacts with a whole lot, and he has curators at museums that he interacts with a lot because the Athenaeum, its main front is a preservation society, so he's got this whole like social network. But we're doing Kindred stuff, so we haven't gotten that stuff. So I plan to like be like the social butterfly, which is kind of out of place for a Tremere, but then again, we're all kind of being out of place for our various clans in terms of stereotypes.
Yeah, you're all kind of trying to buck your what's the word? Buck your stereotype, buck your burden almost.
Right.
Like Melisande with going on CNN and not
That's a great
just
angle.
punching
I love
people
it.
in the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. You like
yeah.
with your personality, the way you are as a Gangrel, even like Thomasina is not taking the corporate path of Aventura.
Yeah, she's still. I know we have the girls on next week, And so I'll be able to talk to her more about that. But I really want to know what it is she actually does at the King and Queen Tower, other than just sit in piles of money and hang out with Philip.
I mean, it's living the dream, right?
Why not both?
But yeah, no, Anton just, wants to keep living and keep learning.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's very productive. And then, I'm almost out of questions. We don't
Neat.
have a whole lot left. So if someone wanted to follow you on social media, where would they do it? If you want to hand out social media, you don't have to.
I probably won't, just because I post pictures of food and that's it. And
People love food.
This is true. So I'm Black Belt Tyler or Black Belt _ Tyler. One of those. You can tell how often I use it.
Someone's going to get a lot of followers right now.
Exactly. On Instagram. I don't think I'm anywhere else except for Facebook.
It's going to be really funny if that's not your username, because that's always...
It's definitely one of those. Look for the one that has food.
I've got... there's some person who, and I don't want to say their name, who has a similar username to me on a couple of different platforms. Mm-hmm. And so I keep getting emails for this person whose name, the last name is like Ekabaria. No. Because of my initials. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, but you do know I'm getting this, right? I'm getting your health... I emailed the guy one time. I'm getting his health insurance information.
That's not good.
So some person is about to get a lot of vampire followers and be very confused when they start talking about Aaron.
It's followers. I'm sure they'll be happy.
I get phone calls all the time for like a logistics security company because it's just a different area code.
Oh no, yeah. That's funny.
Let's see. On Twitter, my username is super creative. It's Zach. ZAK.
Yeah, and is that the only one you want them following? Do you have
you can follow me on Instagram. I was trying to do
you
like
don't
a
have to share.
No, I was trying to do like a not branded name, so it's Cyberpunk Monk, just taking two things I like, putting them together.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We'll pretend there's a graphic that just comes
Ta-da.
in.
We'll
get that eventually.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it's
once we have a budget.
Yeah. So it's Zach ZAK and Cyberpunk Monk on Instagram. And if you're in the Discord, you can always just ask me there too.
Yeah, awesome. And then, did you guys have any questions for each other? Ooh. We do have a couple minutes left.
I had a question for Anton.
Yeah.
Or Zach.
Either one.
I can speak to either one. If you could do the season over again, what would you change?
If I could do the season over again, what would I change?
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Regrets.
Yeah. Aiming for that seat.
No, I don't think so. Actually, no. I actually really like the way this played out. Like I said, I had plans to play Anton's character up a bit more, and then eventually drop the reason why he acted the way he acted, the way that he perceived people. But I think it coming out the way it did, A, felt more natural, and B, helped sort of cut off a point where people might have been like, man, I just can't fucking stand Anton. So I think it actually worked out really well that way.
I like it. And you mentioned natural. That's something I've noticed just playing as a character. There's been, of course, prep work ahead of time for personally what things do I want to ask tonight? Who do I want to engage with? What questions do I want answered? But there's not a script. There's not something that we're following X, Y, and Z to go, and now we're jumping here, because that doesn't seem, I guess, feasible or natural.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Ellie has kind of an idea of where you guys might take it, but then, of course...
Then you kill Big Bird and things just get nasty, and it's just terrible.
I've DM'd. The players are always going to surprise you. That's just how it happens.
That's our job.
And then...
My question for you...
We have about 1 minute.
Sure.
Is, just because we're visiting a lot of major places in Atlanta, where would Aaron like to go if we have to go on a mission?
He really liked Six Flags. I really like Six Flags. When we were describing the different areas and places, as a kid, I loved the Gotham area. It was dirty and smelled, but it was because it was very distinct. It was very different from the rest of the park.
Yeah. Was it the smell that made it distinct?
Yes. That, and I couldn't get on Batman for 3 years. I was too short.
Aww. So you'd want to go back to Six Flags?
I would, because
reconnaissance mission?
There's enough. It's sparse enough as a theme park that it hardly ever feels overcrowded. It's, of course, on if we can't go during the daytime.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's
No lines.
the Halloween
It's
Horror
very
Nights would
sparse
be
when
great.
no one's there.
Right. When you just break in, it'd be
Oh
fun.
yeah, the Fright Fest would be great. Yeah, that'd be fun.
I could come in costume.
Blend right in.
I mean, Ellie is listening. Maybe that'll be a thing.
So,
All right. So, as we approach the end of our show, I'd like to go ahead and remind our fans that you can actually join the fan Discord. The link that we have generated is discord.gg/ Nope, I'm not going to read that out. 5C capital W 9C capital V 9. We'll paste it in the chat so that you can get it. And then follow us on our social media on Instagram and Twitter at ATL by night. And then on Facebook at facebook.com at mess that one up. Facebook.com/ATL by night. And if you'd like more ATL by night content, make sure to follow us on Twitch at 10 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Ellie is streaming Coteries of New York and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, respectively, in lead up to the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. There's so many words in that title.
And Bloodlines is on Saturday. Coteries New York is on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's all Eastern Standard Time because we're Atlanta.
I'm glad you did that backwards, so I had to think about it and didn't just automatically agree. And thank you so much for watching Blood Bonding, and please join us next week so that you can see our talk with Brittany Trambauer-Smith and Leona Rohr, who play Melisende and Thomasina. I literally said it earlier in the episode.
This is true.
I'm terrible with names. All right, thank you guys. Good night.